Hello, everybody. I am briefly showing you my face. Welcome to Rhetoric of Humour at Rutgers Newark. I'm just going to pop into the PowerPoint in order to introduce myself. Um, hi, yes, Rhetoric of Humour, welcome to class. I'm Kat, but you all can call me Dr. Fitzpatrick. I'm feeling very indulgent like that. No, you can call me Kat. Whatever. I mean, it's an online course, so how much you will actually be talking to me, there will be some talking to me. I'm very excited to be teaching you this course. I haven't taught this course in a while, but humor is very dear to my heart. I have several lives, but maybe the one I care about most in some ways is that I'm a writer, and the things I write are mostly funny. I have a first novel that came out in 2022 called The Call Out. If you want to look me up, I have another book coming out this year, and I'm trying to finish another one, Jesus Christ. Anyway, so for me as someone who tries to write funny things, thinking about what makes things funny, how you understand what funny things are doing to you when they make you laugh, and how to make things yourself that are both funny and do things to people as they make them laugh, has been kind of a very important thing for me. So hopefully this is a very practical class in that we're going to be approaching jokes and comedy not just as sort of statements that have meaning as if language was simply paraphrasable, but instead as kind of this technique for doing things to people. I think the fact that it does things to people is what makes jokes so distinctive and powerful. I've got you all this first week. You all have to post yourselves telling a joke in a forum to introduce yourselves. So it's only fair that I start out by telling you a joke as well. I'm going to warn you, it's terrible. How did Darth Vader know what Luke Skywalker was getting for Christmas? Everybody ready? Because he'd felt his presence. I actually don't really understand why this joke keeps making me laugh, but it does keep making me laugh. I mean, in some ways, it's just because it's a really good pun, right? Because it's not just a pun on presence, but also on felt. It means presence, with a C, kind of someone's being somewhere, and presence, like the gift you give someone. But it also means felt, both had a feeling inside yourself and felt like used your hands to touch something. So it's kind of a clever sort of double pun. It's also funny because it's putting this sort of terrifying evil baddie in this kind of very sort of mundane and comforting kind of Christmas situation of trying to figure out what somebody else has for Christmas. But most of all, I think it's funny because it's an absurd question to ask. It's a ridiculous question for someone to be asking you in the first place. But here I am getting ahead of myself. We will not be talking about absurdity until almost the end of the semester. So best pull myself back and instead focus on telling you about the structure of the course you've got yourself into. The basic way I've built this course for all of you is that it starts off very hard. The first 2 weeks are completely awful. They're disgusting. They're a horrible experience. It then gets a bit easier for about 5 weeks, I think. Yeah, 5 weeks. Gets a bit easier for 5 weeks, but still remains sort of challenging until spring break. Then you get spring break. Spring break! And then the second half of the course becomes a lot easier, a lot calmer. In terms of how it works, each week runs, this is a Wednesday, so each week runs Wednesday to Tuesday. The module will go live Wednesday 12:01 a.m., so just after midnight, and you have until midnight Tuesday to do all of the module. Each week is a module, and each module contains one or more video lectures like this one or more funny texts to read or watch. I don't think we have any games or anything, so they're all reading or watching. And also a short assignment, which I will tell you more about later. So you have a week to do those kind of 3 sets of things. I will try to provide you all of the texts. I will certainly be able to provide you all of the written texts. I will do my best to provide you all of the video texts as well. In the event that I am not able to provide you all the video texts free, you might have to pay to watch them. Although I heard there's some way you can get to see videos free on the internet. Something about fast moving bodies of water. I don't know, you're young people. I'm sure you are technically adept and can figure these things out. Okay, so yeah. Starts off hard, gets easier. You may be asking yourself, but Dr. Fitzpatrick, since all we are doing is a couple of online modules like this, surely this will be easy. How could this possibly be hard? Well, the answer is, at least to begin with, there is a lot of fucking reading to do. The first few weeks, you are going to be reading a lot of text or watching a lot of video. You're going to be moving through a large amount of material so that we have enough kind of substantial things to like really think about and really take apart this question of humor. And therefore, there is also a lot of thinking to do. You are going to have to be thinking hard. Humor is actually very strange and kind of uncanny and weird. And when you start to understand how it works, it's kind of you're moving beyond the stage where you're affected by it to think about how it functions, and that's actually a very unnatural kind of thing to do. It's like trying to like understand how your heart pumps. That took people a long time and involved the cutting open of a lot of bodies. Similarly with humor, less dissection of actual bodies, more dissection of text, but it is a similarly forensic and intensive process. There are some very complex ideas, certainly through the first half, right up until the week on inverse humor. There's going to be some kind of complex thinking to do. So if you actually want to do well on this course, you will need to read and think a lot, even if, because it is an online course, you get to do so on a flexible schedule. And now I imagine I hear your voices saying, oh, if we want to do well on this course, well, Dr. Fitzpatrick, how do we do well on this course? Haha, I am here to give you answers. Oh, that's ugly. Oh well, I'll figure this out for next week. Weird. Who can understand the ways of it? Assessment. This is so there's 4 kinds of assessment in this class. We're going to be using Perusall for the readings in many of the videos, as many videos as I can get onto it. We will also be doing, so you'll have to do, if you haven't used Perusall, I'll talk a bit about that in a minute. We're going to be doing embedded quizzes for the lectures. We're going to be doing a weekly funny item upload, and we're going to have a final close reading essay using the concepts of safety and dangers you will have been being taught about in the course of the course. Perusall. Have you guys used Perusall before? It is this interface where you can annotate the readings and videos as a class. So you stick on your annotations and you can also see everybody else's annotations. I will tell you each week how many annotations you need to make in order to get the Perusall grade. You can also comment on your classmates' annotations, and that counts as an annotation too. When you are using Perusall, you can be anonymous to each other if you wish, if you are shy. However, you cannot be anonymous to me. I will know who is saying what. As far as grading goes, the Perusall comes in 2 sections. I will grade you first of all on the texts that are theories of humour, and secondly I will grade you on your reading of the texts that are humorous texts. So there are 2 parts to the Perusall grade. The first is the theories of humour. So the first 2 weeks of the semester, after this introductory week, the next 2 weeks, we will be reading texts that are not on the whole themselves funny, but instead are theories of humour, theories about what is funniness. So there are 10 texts of varying lengths. I think if you put them all together, we're talking about 14,000 words, so about 7,000 words, about 1 academic article to read each week for these 2 weeks. And the idea is that over the course of these 2 weeks, you will read the readings and identify and explain the places in the readings that tell you, 1, what kind of things we laugh at, 2, what it means when we laugh, and 3, how we are made to laugh. And altogether, if you do these annotations, that will count for 10% of your final mark for the entire course, final grade for the entire course. There is more detailed information about how exactly to do this if you click onto the assignment, the Perusall assignment in the module for this week. I've made them available this week, so if you want to get a head start, you can get a head start, although the first of the lectures that I will be giving you on Theories of Humour will not go up until next Wednesday. But the readings for Theories of Humour are up already, so actually you kind of really get 3 weeks to do this. I am trying to make your life easier. After this then, there are the humorous texts. I am not sure exactly how many of the texts I will be able to get into Perusall due to fiddly things like copyright. I will get in as many as I can, but at least for the weeks up until spring break, the 5 weeks up until spring break, and hopefully after, if I can find usable links, I will be putting the videos and text that you are reading or watching into Perusall, and your task then will just be to go through and annotate them to say what you think is funny and briefly say why you think it's funny. So you're going to need to identify typically in every text 10 moments that you think are funny moments and say, what's funny about this? Why do I think this is funny? How does this humor work? If you do this for all of these texts, that will add up to 20% of your final mark. There's 9 different texts, ideally, but certainly at least 5. And that will add up to 20% of your final mark. Then there will be the embedded quizzes. Did you know that I can embed quizzes in your lectures? Apparently, I can. Maybe not every video will have quizzes in it. You will have to wait and see. The videos, the quizzes rather, should be straightforward in form. There's basically going to be mostly multiple choice, maybe the odd short answer question. But they might be tricksy in content. So you might want to make sure you read them twice, because I do love to give tricksy riddles. But basically, these quizzes are just a way for me to make sure you're actually watching the lectures. So if you watch the lectures, you will just find that you do the quizzes. It's not really, doesn't feel like any kind of added work much. If you've been paying attention, you'll be able to answer them. And this is also 20% of your final mark. Then there is a short, funny item upload. You do not have to do this the first 2 weeks when we are doing theories of humor. There are no short, funny item uploads. But after that, once we get on to week 1 and we're talking about sarcasm in the Earl of Rochester, all the way through to the final week, which is absurdity and stand-up comedy, you will have to upload a funny item onto a funny item upload. And the idea is that each week what you do is you give an item that is an example of the kind of humor that we are doing that week. So if we're doing a week on sarcasm in the Earl of Rochester, then you upload something that's sarcastic humor. If we're doing a week on slapstick in Charlie Chaplin, you upload something that's slapstick humor. If we're doing a week on wit in social media, you upload something you think is witty. And it can be something you made, or it can be something that you found. And it can be a comic strip, it can be a short video clip, maybe about a minute, it can be a TikTok, it can be a skeet or a tweet or a post or a meme, it can be a joke, like a knock-knock joke or why did the chicken cross the road joke or whatever. It can be a quotation from a book or an article or something, ideally about 200 to 300 words maximum if you're doing that. As long as it is short and as long as it is funny, it is fine. You upload that, and as long as I think it's funny and as long as it appears to be the right kind of humor, you will get marks for it. You also need to explain briefly why you think it is the right kind of humor. You say, I think this is sarcasm because da-da-da-da-da. So in that case, since it will help if you have listened to the lecture, because the lecture will explain to you what does sarcasm mean, and then you'll be able to upload your thing and say this is sarcasm because da-da-da-da, as it says in the lecture. You also briefly need to explain what you think the safety and danger in the joke are. Don't worry if you don't understand this safety and danger thing I keep mentioning. This is stuff I will talk to you about in the 2 lectures on theories of humor. It's kind of the sort of model I have for understanding what a joke is, and I'm going to explain it to you in detail over the next 2 weeks before you have to do any of these uploads, so you should be fine. You will have 10 uploads total. Each one gives you 3 points, so they are 30% of your final mark. And then finally, the final assessment is there is a close reading essay. I'm not going to talk about a lot about that this week because it's way off in the future. We will only talk about it once we get through spring break. After spring break, the week of March 25th, we will devote a whole week to me explaining to you what a close reading essay is and how it works. What I will tell you briefly is it can be on one of the course texts or it can be on a text of your choice, and it's timed. You submit a proposal for the essay by April the 8th. You submit a draft by April the 22nd. The final thing has to be in by May the 4th, and it is worth 20% of your final mark. But I will talk to you more about this in March, so do not worry about this too much now. That's 100% if you add up all those marks together. There is also a chance to get a bonus mark, and you can get bonus marks by making or writing something funny, like a type 5 stand-up comedy, a short video, a meme, if it's a really good meme. I do not want a shitty meme, has to be a good meme, a funny poem, anything like that, any kind of short thing that you make, and handing it in along with a short explanation of what the safety and danger in it are for you. If you do this, if you make an extra funny little thing yourself as bonus marks to show that you are funny, then it is due in by April the 28th, and if I get it, I will give you bonus marks, if I think it's funny. So that's assessment. What are we going to be studying? Just to kind of briefly go through the things we're going to be studying. We started, as I say, with 2 weeks on theories of humor. So we're going to be studying a bunch of VIPs, very important philosophers. These are, do you guys recognize these guys? This is Aristotle, looking surprisingly muscular. I very much doubt original Aristotle was really that muscular. There is Thomas Aquinas, who actually was kind of a big guy, so that is possibly a slightly more realistic picture. There is Immanuel Kant with his huge forehead to keep all of his huge brains, looking serious. He was very serious. There is Thomas Hobbes looking like he might beat you up, which he might. He had experience of civil war. So some of the philosophers were reading kind of, big names of Western philosophy. Probably the person we'll actually be talking about the most, and the one I really want you to make sure you really understand, is this guy. Anyone recognize him? Looking very rusty. That is Soren Kierkegaard. He is my fave, and although we will read a bunch of other philosophers, I'm basically going to be moving forwards with a kind of Kierkegaardian approach to humor in this course. So definitely pay attention to the Kierkegaard. He is also a giant fucking weirdo, so I hope you enjoy reading this enormous freak. So that's the theory part. After that, we move on to the second part, which is, in keeping with the course title, a rhetoric. Rhetoric of humor. What is a rhetoric? Maybe you guys have never encountered this word before. It is a classical word, a word from like ancient Rome and ancient Greece. A rhetor is like a teacher. But what rhetor is meant to teach you is how to speak, how to be persuasive. Like, say you're a lawyer, you want to go in court and make a speech. How do you persuade people? How to speak effectively. And typically rhetorics break things down historically into different techniques for speaking or writing well. They give these techniques names so they are easy to learn. And similarly, I'm going to be breaking down comedy into a bunch of different techniques and studying examples of people who I think do them well, so you can learn to do them well too and learn what they are like when they are done well. So the things we're doing sarcasm, and we're doing the Earl of Rochester, who is a 17th century English poet who I really like, disreputable, died of syphilis. We're going to be doing satire in Jonathan Swift, who is one of the people who possibly has hated humankind the most. We're going to be doing observational humor in the great Jane Austen. This is a early 19th century novelist who she's kind of famous. People still, kind of write her romances, but I think the reason her romances stay good is because she was so perceptive about people and so good about being funny about what she perceived in people. We're going to be doing slapstick humor in the great Charlie Chaplin, the silent movie star of the early 20th century, the greatest ever to do it. Very, very good at falling over or squirting people with oil. We're going to be watching a movie called Modern Times. We're going to be doing what I'm calling inverse humor. You might also refer to as like black humor or gallows humor. The idea when you laugh at things that aren't funny. And this guy Nathan Fielder, he's a current TV star. He did Nathan for You and The Rehearsal, if you've seen either of those. I think they are great and excruciatingly horrible. So we'll be doing those. Those are our 5 weeks of kind of very serious stuff before spring break. And then we'll get a little bit lighter in the second half. We're going to be watching a high school comedy movie. I'm planning to have you guys watch Bottoms if you haven't already seen it, to talk about like parody. I'm going to be giving you a bunch of, I'm going to give you some like older kind of famous kind of witty things from the great wits of history. And then I'm going to give you a bunch of like social media posts. And we're going to talk about like what wit is, this kind of thing of like wit, of kind of the quip, the quick repartee, the rejoinder. We're going to be doing farce in TV sitcoms. I think I'm hopefully going to give you a number of TV sitcoms, but certainly some Curb Your Enthusiasm. That is my favorite. And then we're going to be doing absurdism in stand-up comedy. I imagine a few of you are into stand-up comedy. And so we're going to be listening to a few stand-up comics and talking about perhaps the most absurd of all forms of humor, in some ways, maybe the most fundamental, the most kind of the ultimate reduction of humor to its kind of basest form, absurdism. So those are the weeks that we're doing. And as you see, this is a course that involves both contemporary stuff and classic stuff. I love to cover both of those things. I think that they are both good and valuable, so hopefully there'll be something here for everybody, both the kind of Englit nerds and the people who are just doing this to like fill in their degree or whatever, and just like to watch TV. Finally, a warning. We're almost there. A warning. I love my warning sign. What a nice warning sign. Humor, the major idea in this course is that humor is always to do with danger, with the possibility that there might be a danger around. So being funny is always a dangerous balance. The texts we are studying, because they are dealing with dangerous things, are potentially dangerous, potentially upsetting, and have to be handled carefully. So imagine this was a chemistry class. The texts have been carefully selected. I, as the teacher, will be giving you examples of how to handle them so that they do not explode. What this means is these will be guided experiments. Please don't do irresponsible, humorous things in this class. Please do not make sexist, racist, homophobic, transphobic, etc. jokes in the uploads. I will not enjoy that. Please do not say sexist, racist, transphobic, homophobic, etc. ableist things in the annotations that you know your classmates can see. Just because this is a class on humour doesn't mean you get to pull that. And basically, above all, no jokes aimed at other people, okay? Don't be mean. Even if some of the texts that we're reading might have elements of meanness in them, do not be mean yourselves, please. This is a school. This is not the world. And if you are mean to each other, I will take it very seriously. Okay, that's what I got. Welcome to Humour class. This week, as I say, you can get started if you want on the readings for the Theories of Humour. Try and get a head start on it. Otherwise, next week we will launch into Theories of Humour. There will be videos for that. Oh, here is my stupid face again, briefly, to say goodbye to you. Hi, here is my stupid face. Hopefully this will all be fun and we will have fun together, reading things and watching things and laughing. Goodbye.